Today's story will leave you with a lot of questions by the end, as it becomes difficult to distinguish between right and wrong. The story begins with an exciting road trip as we meet Vaughan, who is off on a hunting trip to the Scottish Highlands with his childhood friend Marcus. Before leaving, Vaughan makes a promise to his pregnant wife that he will take care of himself. Vaughan has never been hunting before, but Marcus is quite the expert. Vaughan, whose life is bound by responsibilities as he is soon to become a father, contrasts sharply with Marcus, who is carefree, unburdened by relationships or commitments. They arrive at a small village where they plan to stay for 3 days. The evening kicks off with the two heading to a local pub. The villagers are a bit strange, and one man named Logan, the leader of the community, shares his sorrow over the declining economy of the village. He suggests they may need a guide for hunting, but Marcus, being confident, declines. Logan's sharp eyes notice Marcus's attitude, but he lets it slide. As the night goes on, 2 local girls, Cara and Iona, approach them. Vaughan goes to get a drink, and that's when he has a confrontation with a local man named Donald. Marcus intervenes, diffusing the situation. Logan steps in again, warning Vaughan to keep Marcus under control. The night carries on with Marcus taking Cara back to the room, leaving Vaughan and Iona alone. Iona makes a move on Vaughan, but he gently declines, thinking of his pregnant wife. He decides to simply finish his drink and call it a night. The next morning, Marcus wakes Vaughan early for their hunting trip. Marcus, fresh and energetic, contrasts Vaughan, who is still feeling the effects of last night's drinking. It's then Vaughan realizes Marcus has been using drugs to keep him fresh, something he's been doing since their school days. Though worried about his friend's reckless behavior, Vaughan reluctantly joins him for the hunt. They reach the hunting grounds, but Vaughan realizes he left his rifle back at the hotel. Marcus hands him a spare gun. They spot a deer, and Marcus encourages Vaughan to take the shot. Vaughan aims and fires, but suddenly, a horrific realization dawns on them. Someone was standing behind the deer. Vaughan's bullet hits a young boy, killing him instantly. Panic sets in. Vaughan is paralyzed with guilt, while Marcus is terrified of the consequences. The boy's father appears, and in a rage, pulls out a gun, ready to shoot Vaughan. Before he can, Marcus shoots the father to save his friend. Now, they have 2 bodies on their hands. Marcus, cold and calculating, quickly decides to hide the bodies in the bushes. Vaughan wants to notify the authorities, but Marcus tells him that it's a bad idea. In a state of shock, Vaughan follows Marcus's lead as they flee the scene. On their way back to the hotel, Vaughan is consumed by guilt. He can't shake off the image of the dead boy and his father. They stop briefly, and a heated argument erupts between the two. Vaughan insists they report the incident to the police, but Marcus, knowing they'd be charged with double murder, refuses. Vaughan worries about his future, his wife, his unborn child. Everything would be destroyed if he went to prison. Marcus convinces Vaughan that they'll have to return at night to bury the bodies. They have no idea if the victims were locals or tourists, but for now, they must play it safe. Vaughan, though reluctant, feels trapped and agrees. They make a stop at a gas station to leave some evidence that they were simply hunting. When questioned, Marcus tells the shopkeeper they've been hunting nearby. Back at the hotel, Vaughan is struggling to act normal. The trauma is eating away at him. They run into Cara and Iona again, but this time Marcus brushes them off. This strikes the girls as odd, but they don't press further. In the hotel restaurant, they meet Logan again, who invites them to join him at his table. Vaughan's disturbed state doesn't go unnoticed, but when asked, he simply claims he's not feeling well. Vaughan suddenly rushed to the washroom where he started vomiting. Meanwhile, Logan asked Marcus for a favor, requesting his help in finding investors for the community, which could help restore the village's dwindling economy. Marcus assured Logan that he would discuss it when he returned to the city. Logan handed Marcus his card before leaving. In the washroom, Vaughan was crying, unable to erase the memory of what had happened. That night, the two returned to the forest with only 4 hours left before dawn. They needed to bury the bodies before daylight. Marcus searched for the bullet from his rifle that had passed through the man's body and lodged into a tree. After some struggle, he managed to retrieve it. However, Vaughan's bullet had stayed inside the boy's head. When Marcus tried to dig the bullet out with a knife, Vaughan snapped, refusing to let Marcus further desecrate the boy's body. He couldn't bear to do any more harm to the child, but Marcus was terrified. If the police found the bullet, it would trace back to his gun. Tensions flared as they argued, but eventually, Vaughan relented. Marcus continued and finally managed to extract the bullet from the boy's head. By the time they finished burying the bodies, the sun was beginning to rise. They hurried back to the hotel, planning to rest briefly and then head home. Upon reaching the hotel, the innkeeper's son spotted them, but they didn't care. He was just a kid after all. Exhausted, they took a short nap. By 1 p.m, they began packing their bags to leave. However, as they prepared to go, they noticed a group of people gathered near Marcus's car. Marcus immediately feared the worst, thinking they had been found out. But it turned out to be Kara's uncle, accusing Marcus of spending the night with Kara and giving her cocaine. The situation escalated, but Logan intervened and calmed things down. However, they cannot leave, as the car's tyre had been slashed by Brian, one of Logan's cousins. Logan instructed Frank to take the car to the garage, telling them it would take a day to fix. Now, Marcus and Vaughn were stuck in the village for another day. Feeling trapped, they returned to the pub. Vaughn, shaken, tried to hide the bloodstains on his bag, which contained the knife and their clothes. While Marcus was in the washroom, Iona approached Vaughn and mentioned that Logan's nephew and his sister's husband had gone missing. Vaughn's heart sank. When Marcus returned, Iona told him about the missing family members. Without thinking, Marcus replied, "Didn't they come back yet?" This raised suspicions because Iona had only mentioned the nephew, not the husband. Vaughn quickly realized they had made a slip-up. Marcus too sensed the mistake but quickly tried to cover it up, saying, "Why would a kid go camping alone?" But the questions didn't stop there. How did Marcus know that Logan's nephew was just an 11-year-old boy? As Marcus dug himself deeper into his own lies, Vaughn grew increasingly anxious. The two managed to leave the bar, barely escaping the suspicious stares. Vaughn handed the bloody bag to Marcus, unable to cope with the pressure. Both were terrified now that they knew the people they had killed were Logan's relatives. They anxiously waited for morning, hoping to get the car and escape the village. Vaughn considered confessing their crime, but Marcus was adamant. No one could ever find out. Marcus grew angry at Vaughn, accusing him of making things worse by second-guessing their actions. He reminded Vaughn that he had killed to protect him, yet now Vaughn was making him out to be the villain. Just then, someone approached them and asked them to step outside. It was the night of the village festival, and Logan wanted to speak with them. Iona told them that Logan's sister's husband and son were still missing, and a search party was heading into the forest. Logan invited them to join the search. Marcus and Vaughn exchanged nervous glances, but had no choice but to agree. As they entered the forest with the others, tension mounted. Logan asked, "Where were you both last night?" Vaughn knew that the innkeeper's son must have seen them return late, tipping off Logan. Marcus, though frightened, claimed that they had gone night hunting, trying to sound as casual as possible. The night hunting without permission was illegal, and soon Logan's men suggested reporting it to the police. Logan ordered his men to keep a close watch on Vaughn and Marcus, ensuring they couldn't escape. In another car, Frank arrived with dogs to help track down the missing individuals. The search began, and within a short time, they reached the burial spot where the bodies were hidden. As the group started digging, Marcus and Vaughn saw an opportunity and made a run for it. Logan's men chased after them in their vehicles, but soon realized there was a hole in their fuel tank. Brian had earlier shot a bullet into it. With no choice, Marcus and Vaughn abandoned the car and fled into the forest. Logan's men released their dogs to track them. One of the dogs caught Vaughn by the leg, but Marcus killed the dog to free him. However, Vaughn was injured and couldn't run anymore. As Logan's men got closer, Vaughn asks Marcus to run, and Marcus made a heart-wrenching decision. He left Vaughn behind and ran into the forest alone. Brian brutally beat Vaughn, but Logan intervened and stopped him, knowing they didn't have the full story yet. Vaughn was taken to Logan's farm, where he broke down and confessed everything, apologizing for his actions. Brian wanted to kill Vaughn, but Logan refused, insisting that they are not murderers. Besides, killing Vaughn will raise questions and police will take action against them. Just then, news came that Marcus had been captured. Morning arrived. Vaughn was given a choice. He was handed a gun and forced to shoot Marcus. If he didn't, Brian threatened to kill both. Logan reminded Jack that his pregnant wife is waiting for him, and he would not see her or his unborn child again if he did not comply. Vaughn, heartbroken, looked at Marcus one last time. Marcus, calm and composed, did not say a word to stop Vaughn, because he understood his friend too well, and he knew what was required to be done. With a heavy heart, Vaughn pulled the trigger, and Marcus was gone. Vaughn broke down in tears over the death of his friend, who had always stood by him. Though Marcus had a rough side, he was still Vaughn's closest friend, and was like a brother to him. The next day Vaughn was ready to go home. His wife was coming to pick him up, and Logan told Vaughn that Marcus went north and never returned, and the missing relatives were never found, so that they are on the same page. Months passed. Jack had a son, but he still couldn't sleep at night. The memories of that fateful day haunted him. Though his life seemed to move forward, the weight of his decisions and Marcus's death never left him. This story's ending raises deep questions. Who was truly right, and who was wrong? In the first instance, Vaughan accidentally killed a child, and then Marcus killed the boy's father to save Jack. But in the final act, Vaughan was forced to kill Marcus, his best friend, to save his own life. The story leaves us pondering the complexities of morality and friendship. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back with another exciting movie recap in the next video. Thanks for watching.